Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Currently Speaking. I'm Bill Current, the president and founder of the Current Consulting Group, and we are really excited to have you join us for this special episode of Currently Speaking entitled, Will the Marijuana Movement Kill Drug Testing? But before we get started, I'd just like to remind you to check out our website at currentconsultinggroup.com, where you'll find past episodes of Currently Speaking, as well as webinars that we've done, blog posts that we've posted. You'll find just a ton of great information at our website at currentconsultinggroup.com. And if you have any questions or suggestions for topics that you'd like us to cover, please just email us at info@currentconsultinggroup.com. We love ideas, so send your ideas in. If you've got a request, we'll be really happy to take a look at that for you. So today's episode is, Will the Marijuana Movement Kill Drug Testing? Well, what do you think? Will it? Will the marijuana movement kill drug testing? With the rescheduling of marijuana weighing heavily on the minds of employers and drug testing providers, many are wondering what the future of drug testing will look like. Will the industry survive if marijuana rescheduling ultimately leads to federal legalization? Will DOT lose the authority to require covered employers to test applicants and employees for marijuana? And if so, will those employers continue to test for cannabis on their own authority? Will the ongoing effort to legalize marijuana at the state level hurt or actually help drug testing sales? According to Current Consulting Group's 28th annual drug testing industry survey, the future looks bright for workplace drug testing. However, providers are understandably concerned about the rescheduling of marijuana and how it might impact safety. Now, CCG's latest survey involved nearly 500 drug testing professionals, representing one of the highest response rates in the survey's history. The survey included representatives from laboratories, device manufacturers, medical review officers, third-party administrators, background screening companies, collectors, and substance abuse professionals. And it would only be appropriate at this time to pause for a moment to thank this year's survey sponsors, which included Abbott, ClearStar, Synergy, DISA, DrugPack, Hask, Endesa, Premier Biotech, and Quest. Thank you, survey sponsors. Without your support, it would not be possible to do the survey every year. And this is, of course, our 28th year of doing the drug testing industry survey. Now, the survey found that the legalization of marijuana continues to have an effect on drug testing sales, though the impact appears to be relatively balanced between positive and negative outcomes. For instance, when asked, how much is the legalization of marijuana affecting drug testing sales, 36% said it is having a negative effect on sales, while 9% said there's been no negative effect so far, but they believe there will be one eventually. On the other hand, 32% said they have not noticed a negative effect on sales, while 5.4% said marijuana legalization has actually had a positive impact on drug testing sales. And additionally, 7% said they believe the impact will eventually be positive. How do those results compare to previous CCG surveys? The trend line actually looks positive for employers continuing to test for marijuana. For instance, the percentage of respondents who said marijuana legalization was having only a minimal effect on sales declined from 39% in 2024 to 35% in 2025, and then 32% in 2026. Further, the percentage who said marijuana legalization was having no effect on sales remained unchanged at 32% between 2024 and 2026. In this case, I believe a flat trend line is actually good news. In other words, despite the continued expansion of marijuana legalization, most drug testing providers are not seeing evidence that employers are abandoning drug testing in significant numbers. Finally, the percentage who said they see no negative effect presently but predict one will eventually occur increased from 12% to 14% between 2024 and 2025 before dropping dramatically to 7% in 2026. Now, I want to refer back to our 2025 survey again. When providers were asked why have clients dropped marijuana from their drug test panel, Their responses suggested that the trend lines were moving in the right direction for drug testing. No, we'll be comparing the 2025 results with the results from the 2024 survey. First, they believe it makes it harder to hire people, 49% in 2025, which was down from 62% in 2024. To avoid the risk of legal challenge from an applicant or employee, 37% in 2025, down from 44% the previous year. And it's not legal to test for marijuana in their state or states, 27%, down from 34%. Generally speaking, the percentage of survey participants who believe the trend of employers discontinuing marijuana testing decreased from 70% in 2024 to 62% in 2025 and 58% in 2026. Now, the percentage who do not believe the trend will continue increased from 30% in 2024 to 38% in 2025 before declining to 23% in 2026. Much has been said about the current administration's efforts to reschedule marijuana from a Schedule I drug alongside LSD and heroin to a Schedule III drug alongside Tylenol with codeine. Despite concerns among many drug testing professionals about the potential impact such a move could have on workplace safety, President Trump signed an executive order in December 2025 instructing applicable federal agencies to initiate rescheduling. Then, in February of this year, Interim Attorney General Todd Blanche issued a directive to those agencies to move forward with the process. Even before those actions, many drug testing providers indicated they believed rescheduling would have a direct impact on employers' drug testing policies. When asked in our survey, what effect will the rescheduling of marijuana as a Schedule III controlled substance have on drug testing overall, respondents answered as follows. 28% said many employers will stop testing for marijuana. 36% said some but not many will stop testing for marijuana. 19% said it will have little to no effect on drug testing. And 17% said, I don't know, but our clients are asking what rescheduling means. Survey participants were also asked, will the rescheduling of marijuana as a Schedule III controlled substance result in DOT no longer having the authority to require covered employers to test for marijuana? 12% said yes, 42% said no, and 46% admitted it was hard to say. Now, I serve on the board of directors of the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association, NDASA. I'm very proud of the work that NDASA is doing to protect employers' rights to continue testing for marijuana in the face of rescheduling and to ensure DOT retains the authority to require covered employers to test for marijuana via a safety carve-out. So on May 21st of this year, NDASA organized a press conference outside the DOT headquarters in Washington, D.C. that included drug testing professionals, lawmakers, and concerned citizens to promote the inclusion of a safety carve-out in anything to do with rescheduling. Now, you can visit NDASA's YouTube page and view the entire press conference, but I want to quote Joe McGuire, NDASA's executive director, who reminded us during the press conference of the essential role of drug testing in helping to maintain transportation safety. She said, quote unquote, drugs and safety do not mix. Then she went on to say, quote, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and every single day when my children put their children on the bus or buckle them into their car seats to drive down the road or the freeway, I want to know that those children are not at risk of someone operating under the influence of any drug, much less legal marijuana. This is something that we must have protection for. We must continue to keep the safety record as it has been intact for decades. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, NDASA, for all that you're doing to promote this very valuable, important message. Safety carve-out is essential if rescheduling is going to go forward. Now, it's important to understand that the rescheduling of marijuana does not mean that medical review officers can or should accept the supposed legal use of medical marijuana as a valid excuse for a positive drug test result and thus report the result as negative, as they might otherwise do with the legal use of a properly prescribed drug. On May 15, 2026, DOT issued the following update in the form of a question with a 5-part response. Here's the question. Recently, the Drug Enforcement Administration issued an order that reclassified FDA-approved drug products derived from marijuana and marijuana products regulated by a state medical marijuana license from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 drugs under the Controlled Substances Act. When reviewing a laboratory-reported marijuana positive drug test result, can a medical review officer deem the test a negative if the employee alleges the positive resulted from consuming a state-licensed marijuana product? And here are the answers. Number 1, no. Currently, there is no instance when the MRO could verify a laboratory-confirmed marijuana positive drug test result as negative when an employee claims the positive was caused by a state-licensed marijuana product. 2, even after rescheduling, state-dispensed marijuana does not constitute an FDA-approved drug. Without FDA approval for a controlled substance, it cannot be prescribed. 3, a legitimate medical explanation requires use of a legally prescribed controlled substance in compliance with federal laws that govern such a prescription. 4, although the MRO may be presented with documentation such as a state-issued medical marijuana card, physician recommendations or certifications, or dispensary records or receipts, these documents do not satisfy Part 40 requirements for a quote-unquote legitimate medical explanation. 5, marijuana use under state marijuana programs or other non-prescription sources do not qualify as a legitimate medical explanation under 49 CFR Part 40. In addition, marijuana use is not compatible with safety-sensitive functions. Here's the key takeaway from DOT's update. No, emphatically. To elaborate, MROs cannot accept an employee's claim that his or her marijuana positive test result was caused by the legal use of medicinal marijuana, a state-licensed marijuana product. The confirmed positive test must be reported as a positive result. To reiterate, DOT clarified, quote, state-issued medical marijuana cards, physician recommendations or certifications, or dispensary records or receipts do not satisfy Part 40 requirements for a legitimate medical explanation. Why? Because as DOT stated, quote, even after rescheduling, state-dispensed marijuana does not constitute an FDA-approved drug. Without FDA approval for a controlled substance, it cannot be prescribed, end quote. And as everyone in the business of DOT drug and alcohol testing knows, legitimate medical explanation requires use of a legally prescribed controlled substance in compliance with federal laws governing such a prescription. And Schedule 3 marijuana does not meet that criteria, at least at this time. There may be some naysayers in the drug testing industry who are skeptical, and in the end, their skepticism may prove warranted. But for now, this clarification from DOT is welcome news for MROs as well as employers who may have been confused about the ramifications of reclassifying marijuana as a Schedule 3 controlled substance. And it cannot be said too much. Rescheduling does not mean federal legalization of marijuana. This all comes at a time when most drug testing professionals remain bullish about the industry's future and optimistic about current sales trends. A combined 72% of providers in Current Consulting Group's 2026 survey indicated that drug testing sales are on solid ground. Just over 44% of respondents, compared to 32% in 2025, reported that sales had increased during the past 12 months, while another 28% said that sales had remained unchanged. In contrast, only 21% indicated that sales had declined over the past year. Further, about 44% believe drug testing sales will increase by the end of 2026, compared to 16% who believe sales will decrease. As for what employers themselves will do if rescheduling interferes with DOT's authority to require covered employers to test for marijuana, consider findings from CCG's 2025 Annual Employer Drug Testing Survey. This is our annual employer survey as opposed to industry survey. When asked, what are the leading reasons for establishing and maintaining a drug testing program for your company? 78% of employers cited to promote workplace safety as their reason, making it the top response by a wide margin. That motivation to keep workers and the general public safe will still be there, no matter what the federal government and the Trump administration do to make marijuana more accessible, which would undoubtedly result in more workers being impaired on the job. Which brings us back to the question we started with. Will the marijuana movement kill drug testing? I don't think so. And according to our most recent surveys, most providers and employers agree. Drug testing plays an essential and irreplaceable role in maintaining safe and productive workplaces. I believe drug testing will not only survive, but thanks in part to the marijuana movement, it will actually thrive in the years ahead. Check out my new book, What Every Employer Should Know About Marijuana, available on Amazon. It is available digitally via the Kindle app, which is a free app. So purchase the book, download the app, and start reading. If you have any questions, contact me at bcurrent2@currentconsultinggroup.com or go to our website at currentconsultinggroup.com, and you'll find past episodes of Currently Speaking, our webinars, our blog posts. It's all on there. You can go on there and read up and listen to past episodes. And if you like what you're hearing, let us know. And if you have any suggestions for topics to cover in the future, let us know that as well. Thank you again for joining us, and that concludes another episode of Currently Speaking.